It's the 20th episode today, folks. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. All 36 subscribers.
Yes, indeed.
100% going to watch this episode because it is the 20th episode.
Absolutely, baby.
The 20th episode, bro.
Yes, indeed.
We made it. We literally made it. No, like I like, you know, to level with you, like most people don't get to 20 episodes when they make a podcast.
No, especially if, like, for some of my friends that have like actually taken it in, they're just like, dude, an hour and a half. That's pretty hard to do. But I don't find that hard at all. Right?
I think it's easy.
If anything, it's hard to keep it at that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like last week's episode, we could have gone for at least another couple hours, I think.
Can we check the OBS real quick just to make sure that our sound levels are good? But while you're pulling that up, I just thought that, you know, going off of last week, we relished in our W's when it came to the shorts. I think it's fitting to relish in our W's when it comes to reaching the 20th episode of the YNP podcast.
Hell yeah, brother. Critical YNP, baby.
Critical YNP, baby, because it's you know, folks, it's important to celebrate your wins, you know, when you're on a journey, right? It's important to reflect and to adapt and to review and assimilate. So there's this post that I pulled up, or that I looked at over the week, and it's about basically wanting to be, or being part of, like, the top % of a very crowded creator market, and some stats that are kind of jump out of the page when it comes to that. You know, 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3. That's
believable.
1.8 million who quit.
Yep, believable.
Right?
I mean, man, we were fucking guilty of it.
We were close.
No, what I'm saying is, even before this, like, remember we did a couple eps at my house, for example?
Yeah. But that's when we lacked the direction. We lacked our voice, and
I think we still lack our voice, to be honest with you.
Accomplish. We got somewhat of a
we got
voice
somewhat.
On.
It's still being it's still in its cocoon, I think.
It still is in its cocoon, but we're getting.
We have yet to molt into a beautiful yet very masculine butterfly.
we haven't we haven't reached our second evolution yet. We haven't even reached our first. We're still a metapod right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, you remember metapod?
Yeah, I remember metapod, bro.
Of course,
turns into a butterfree. Shit.
Yeah.
Would you rather be a metapod or a?
When do you think that butterfree?
Kakuna.
Yeah. When do you think that butterfree?
Kakuna always looked badass though. Metapod looked like a pussy compared to.
Metapod was a pussy. Metapod couldn't do shit. It's kind of like who would win a fight? Magikarp versus Metapod. Probably Metapod.
I don't.
Metapod's grass. It probably has grass moves. So I think Metapod.
I swear Metapod, all it can do is harden.
That's true. Dude, that's a bout for the ages, bro. Magikarp Splash versus Metapod.
Let me slap you with my tail one time.
Oh my god. Okay, going back to these stats. And this is from a post on Reddit called The Art and Science of Getting to the Very Top of Crowded Creator Markets. I think I already mentioned that, but whatever, just for the sake of that. Put the link in the description. The second interesting stat is, of the 200,000 that are left from the 90% of podcasts that don't get past episode 3, 90% will quit after 20 episodes. That's another
90% will quit after that.
Yeah. So out of that,
you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me a lot of, like, our journey through jiu-jitsu, bro. This is basically what it is.
That's true too.
Yeah.
That is very true for you, particularly.
Very relatable.
Very relatable.
Yeah, you white belt bastard. This guy's been training for as long as I've been training, bro.
20 stripe white belt. Give me it.
Took a friggin' long ass hiatus, bro.
Oh,
you need your 5th stripe, bro. Fuck a belt. You need another stripe.
I need my 20 stripes, bro. I need stripes going all around the belt from the beginning to the end, dude. That's my vibe. But third one. To be in the top 1% of podcasts in the world, you only need to publish 21 episodes of your podcast. So get this, folks. All right. For the 36 or 35, whatever subscriber count that we're on right now, you tuned in for the next episode of the YNP pod, you'll officially be tuning in to the top 1% of podcasts in the world. How crazy is that?
Humble brag.
No
big deal. No big deal at all.
So he rounds us out with a nice little fourth point here. Your competition is not the 2 million podcasts. It's the 20,000 podcasters who don't quit. Bars.
What's the lesson we taking away from here?
The lesson is that this game, and for any long-term game, is just really just a question of endurance, bro. You just got to stay in the game.
Consistency, showing up, doing it with intent, I think, I mean, at the very least, like we were saying before, we end up with a body of work, which I would already be happy with, even without the 36. Even though we're not, it's not to say that we're not happy for you 36 or whatever it's at right now. Shout out you OG followers, subscribers.
100%.
But yeah, so far so good. Let's get it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Let's keep going.
Because the reality is that people quit too easily. So to get to the top 1-2% of whatever crowded market, then this could be anything. This could be fucking plumbing. This could be I don't even know. This could be what, jiu-jitsu too. You know,
well, no, man.
The
like,
vast majority of people quit too easily.
and I think I was talking to one of the guys that just about it. Is just like one of the things that I really love about training jiu-jitsu is that it's fundamentally changed the way that I approach learning. Right, like before jiu-jitsu, obviously you always know, like, oh, you're always told, and like especially if you competed in any kind of sports or anything competitive in general, yeah, you're, as long as you show up, as long as you train, you're gonna get good at something, right? But it didn't really hit me until I started training jiu-jitsu, where it's just like there's so much like, not ego death. It's not like a psychedelic trip where you experience this crazy amount of like ego death or whatever. But the amount of losses you have to take to get good at jiu-jitsu, it really is a great lesson in that, okay, anything that I pick up and want to learn, I know, and just from my experiences from jiu-jitsu, that I'm going to suck at it. And it's better to just accept that you're going to suck at it. But I also know that as long as we keep showing up, as long as I keep working on this craft, working on it consistently and showing up every day, that one way or another, I am going to get good. And sometimes it's not so easy to notice that you're getting good while you're in the moment. But actually, when you step back after a set period of time, you just realize, like, shit, I actually laid some bricks down. I actually did some work. And now I'm a little bit better than where I was when I started, obviously, at the very least. And I forget which entrepreneur, like, this is the guy, I don't know if you've ever seen the clip where he had Dave Goggins show up at his crib, and he had him stay with him for like 20 days or some shit, just so that like he could live that kind of Goggins lifestyle, whatever. Anyway, but he's this entrepreneur. But he says something about how, like, if you spend 18 minutes every day at something and try to get good at that for, like, let's say even after a year, you're going to be better at that thing than 90% of people around the world.
Right.
18 minutes. So even if you average that out to, like, let's say 2 hours, 3 hours a week, like what we're doing, right? So, I mean, obviously, I think relative to all the other great podcasts that are out there, we can't hold a candlestick to the top ones, not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
But
stay tuned.
At the same time, everybody starts off as a white belt, and this is just us at our white belt. Maybe we have a couple stripes at this point.
Yeah, I would say we probably got our first stripe. We reached grading.
I would say so. Yeah,
we just got that. It's kind of like a pity stripe.
Or do we feel? This feels like exactly when you first started. You just like, yeah, I think I got my first stripe, right?
Yeah, like the eyes are opening a little bit. The eyes are opening. It's like, exactly. Damn, no. I'm staying alive. You know, I'm really in this bitch. You know?
I think the gains that were small lift for us, I think we made those pretty quick. Now it's just like, actually, I think we're spending a lot more time on the actual kind of the art of podcasting, as far as we eliminate a lot of like the small bad habits that we do, like talking over each other, for example, making sure that we're transitioning through topics nicely. You know what I mean? So from a production standpoint, if you look at like our first episode to like now, like all the things that were within our control, we're able to do. But now it's just like that art of making things engaging, just making a better all around like show, not only just for us, obviously, but for the 36 viewers that are out there subscribed.
100%. And learning the game has been fun. It's been an educational, uphill battle for sure. Just testing stuff out. We ran into this last week where we thought we literally got shadow banned, which is funny to say for a
I know, right?
That has 20 subscribers at the time. But yeah, it's like any long-term game. The you got to stay consistent. It's a game of endurance at the end of the day, and constant learning. And as long as you're in it for the long haul, then there's really the odds of you not being good at something in the span of even a year of doing it weekly, right?
But there's a difference.
So far-fetched
for sure. And I think there's a big difference though between being passive about it and just like, you could definitely just show up and not really be a little bit more passive about it, where it's just like, those people that go to the gym. And it's like, yeah, I went to the gym. Okay, but what did you do at the gym though?
Yeah.
You spent half the time hanging out and like socializing, which, hey man, if that's what you want to go to the gym for, then absolutely. But don't lie to yourself and say, or get frustrated and say, I'm not making progress. I'm not making any gains. Well, yeah, it kind of makes sense why you're not making any gains, because when you're at the gym, you're not actually doing any lifts.
Yeah, you got to get in there. That's you only want that person only won half the battle, which is still better, way better.
Yeah,
than
exactly.
The person that didn't even get to the gym at
For
all.
sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So you're already halfway there. You just got to put in the work at that point and constantly have that intention.
What I was getting at with that though is that I think every week there's always an intent. There's like
intent
factor. It might not seem like it, folks, because we're a little get clunky. You know what I mean? We're not quite graceful and what do you call it? Yeah,
we don't have that finesse.
We don't have that finesse. Like, that's the word I was looking for. We don't have that finesse yet to make this look completely professional. But we're way better off than where we started for sure.
100%. I think we've grown leaps and bounds from when we started back in, I don't even know, December. But to kind of segue into who I think really exemplified this to a fucking T this past week. You know Tyler One?
Tyler One? No.
Tyler One, the guy that the really famous streamer.
No.
Plays a lot of video games, whatever. He's really known for League of Legends. Anyway, you don't know who I'm talking about. But this dude, he achieved something crazy that exemplified exactly what we're talking about in chess, the world of chess.
Oh, right. No, I saw this headline. Yeah.
So Tyler One, for the folks who don't know anything about League of Legends or just streaming in general, is a really famous Twitch streamer. He's, again, known for League of Legends and playing that game just like every single day for the past decade and just being really good at that. And he's like kind of this personality, right? He's got like a really loud, crazy personality. He lifts, he's jacked. Just imagine this jacked, bald dude. He kind of looks like those guys from Dune, those characters with the bald head. And
the Sardaukar, not the Sardaukar, the guys from Giddy Prime, Harkonnens, yeah.
Harkonnens, right? It's kind of like a Harkonnen, with like a freaking wife beater on. It's amazing. Yeah. He's awesome. I've been watching, like, I haven't been watching, but like just as a person that has played League of Legends, like you don't play that game and not know who Tyler One is. Okay. So he's really prolific in that scene.
Yeah.
But he basically went from not knowing anything about chess this time last year to reaching 1900 ELO in chess.
What does that mean?
In 1900 ELO in chess, it basically puts him at the top. What is it? 0.9% of the world.
What is ELO? What is that?
ELO is basically just ranking. Mm-hmm. So think of ELO.
What's the 1900?
The 1900. So like 1900 will put him just 100 ELO below master level of chess.
Okay.
So yeah,
so 2000 is no. I'm aware of it. Yeah.
So 2000 is like
not everybody might be
right. Yeah. So ELO is, again, ranking throughout. You start off as a brand new chess player, start off with 0 ELO,
right?
And the more ranked matches you play against other people that are playing the game, you gain ELO every time you win, right? And the ELO that we're talking about here is or the amount of points you get is based on the difficulty of the player that you're playing against. So if you're playing against someone, for example, if I'm starting off at 0 ELO and I play someone today on chess.com that has 100 ELO, mm-hmm. I'll probably...
So this is, if you have chess.com, for example, as you're playing, you're going to see your ELO actually in real time. Yeah.
So you gain ELO by beating players
and this guy,
or above your difficulty.
This guy did it in a year.
And he did it in a year.
Wow. You know what? I actually don't find, that's obviously absolutely impressive. That's that probably took a lot of time and like study of the game.
13 hours, 14 hours a day.
Like, but there is a lot of resources because chess is such a very old game. It's kind of like how, in my opinion, where it's just like there's a lot more resources available for chess that if you did have the time to dedicate to do that, I think it's a very, I think it's a really achievable feat. I only say that because, bro, you have kids, literally kids that have that kind of rating. Children.
But those for those kids that are, anyone that's reaching around master level, like 2000 ELO, and their kids, like they're basically prodigies. More or less.
Maybe.
And to kind of not really refute, but like to, I guess, whatever, clap back at that point that you just made. This is a really impressive feat because, again, he started without knowing anything a year ago, and other folks that are in the space, Even guys like Hikaru, who you probably
I don't think that's that fair to say that he didn't really know anything, because I think there's a lot of skills that transfer over from a game
from
like
the
League of
100%.
Legends over. Like I'm not too aware of League of Legends, but to me, I think League of Legends is, from my understanding of it, is even a more complex game than actual chess. There's a lot more moves. There's a lot more positions to go around compared to what's available in chess, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you could argue that it's a less complex game, that it's not that hard for him to pick up.
Right. Well, there's things like, recognizing patterns, puzzles, right?
Yeah.
Problem solving.
Doesn't sound that impressive, honestly.
No, that's the thing. I mean, you know what?
Obviously, he's mad impressive.
Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. Why are you looking at me and you're smiling, bro? Like, just go with it. Just go with it.
I am going with it.
I know.
I'm
don't smile at me.
Trying.
Now I know. Because now I know. Like, I think it's okay. Everyone's saying this is impressive. Of course, it's impressive.
Yeah.
You'd be stupid to not think that this is impressive. Yeah. But the main point of this is that. I guess the main point of this is, like you said, League of Legends. He put on the folks that play for League of Legends because that is a superior game in my opinion. That is a team-based game. That is a game that, bro, this guy
is an advanced chess, bro.
It's basically advanced.
Like a 4D chess, basically.
I think so because you have other
people that are
other
variable people on there too. Yeah,
it's other people on your team as well as what the other people on the other team are doing.
For
right,
sure.
It's a 10 or 5v5 based game.
Yeah,
and he really put on for the folks that play League of Legends, man. Because as one of those folks from a previous life, that's it's kind of like your hometown dude, like kind of like how Kawhi won the chip for us,
I was obviously trolling.
Putting off.
I'm obviously friggin' trolling. Like, okay. All that said,
I think pick up on that.
I guess that's why I got you ramped up, and that's why I started saying it's working.
Yeah, go,
diabolical.
Yeah.
No, but I think the one thing that I take away from that, the one that stands out even more to me compared to like the actual achievement of that rating, right, is the fact that somebody that already has done so much in a certain space, or League of Legends, for example, probably has the time and resources to do anything that he wants to do whenever he wants, has taken the time to, has that competitive mindset, not only a competitive against other people, but against himself, to be like, you know what, I'm going to spend the next year, spend 13 to 14 hours to master this game so I can achieve this kind of rating, 1900, right? That takes another kind of dedication, level of like dedication, but just like discipline. So that's something that, that's something that stands out a lot, is just like, I know if you were to ask me if I ever reached a certain, and I don't know, this is obviously just, what I think of right now. Who knows what's going to happen if and when I do reach something like that. But I would think that I wouldn't want to spend 13, 14 hours like on this one craft. Like, he must have either, I wonder what it must have been like for him. Like, did he love it the whole time, or was he like struggling through it? And like, did he realize like 2 months into it, it's like, yo, fuck, what did I get myself into? But now I'm kind of like stuck in this because I said I would do it, and I'm going to like finish it anyway.
Yeah, I think for a guy like him, because it really started, I believe, like this time last year, he faced like one of his boys. And
he got murked probably.
He lost, but that's what really is pretty just
that's what triggered it.
It's pretty much what triggered it, and like it was basically just his way of trying to clap back at his boy, and be like, bro, like this game is easy, like,
right.
And so he kind of did prove that. Well, he didn't prove that the game was easy, because obviously we know chess is a hard ass game, and it's hard to get this elo. Again, 1900 elo puts you at the top 1% of the world, but I think it also, to your point, exemplifies
for a game. Sorry to cut you off, but for a game that a lot of people play, That's there's something to be said there. Like, you could be one of the greatest for a game that only 500 people play,
right? Versus
being one of the greatest that literally probably billions of people have played.
I would probably put it up there, exactly. For sure. Sorry, at least the hundreds of millions.
I just wanted to.
I think also what exemplified the things that we were talking about before about podcasting and just doing something over, like owning in on a skill for the long term, is that the way he did it was really interesting too, because he used just one opening. He used just one opening every single match to get from 0 to 1900, and it was called this opening called the cow opening that another, I think, grandmaster or master level player made like this really attractive like girl, by the way. Like she's like a young, attractive girl, popular content
Streamer.
creator.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at when I was doing a little digging into that, I was like, man, like it's like she's like it's interesting how many people or like it's interesting the different backgrounds, I guess.
I wonder if that opening is actually just an opening that has already existed for dozens of hundreds of years, but it's just been like popularized by her because she's the streamer, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Like I said, like chess is one of those games that's been around for so long and has so much literature behind it that I don't know, like there's only certain number of openings, and I'm sure that it's already been like established.
Probably, most likely, yeah. I will put my money on that too. So she was just the.
That's kind of arbitrary.
I kind of just point her out because he basically picked up that opening just like watching her from like
from streams and stuff. Yeah.
She like made.
That's another thing about YouTube, man. Like, say what you want about Google and whether or not they're actually like don't come for our necks, but you know there's. Anyway, actually, I don't want to go. I'd rather not go there.
Yeah, well,
no, what I'm saying, like YouTube. I think the advent of YouTube is so fucking crazy because back in the day, if you wanted to like learn a new skill or get good at something, you either had to have the usually the money to do it, right?
Yeah.
But YouTube, exactly, like literally, you could become like a full stack developer just from shit that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Fucking wild.
No, it's online education is the future, and the future is now. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the traditional, conventional education system kind of goes from here the next 20 years.
Well, what I'm interested in is seeing like, especially with this Neuralink shit. Can you imagine? I think this came up on a previous pod, but there could be a future out there that. Everybody has, or maybe not necessarily everybody, but this is another topic as well, is who has access to this technology. If you have a Neuralink chip in your brain and then next thing you plug in, and then now you could just download skills. So imagine that 1900 that you just talked about. Now I can just have a Neuralink in my brain and then download that information as if it were Matrix. Now I'm also 1900.
Yeah, but if everyone has access to that, it'll be interesting to see how that actually pans out. Because if everyone can just get a insane boost, like relatively speaking,
exactly. And what kind of openings?
What are the factors that are going to set people apart? That are going to make them break the top?
And
one.
Now, from a society standpoint, what if only certain people have access to this technology? And then now fold in like gene editing on top of that. That's crazy.
There was something that happened in the gene editing or splicing world.
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe a couple months ago. So CRISPR, actually, let me just pull it up. On a second. Why is this not showing?
Did it die?
I don't know. I don't think so. Did it just not connect?
Might have been out of battery.
There you go. Yes. So for CRISPR, yeah. So CRISPR really like I don't know how much you know about CRISPR. Yeah.
Not much.
So CRISPR is this methodology, or I'm gonna butcher this probably, but it made a lot of noise 5, 6, I think even going upwards of like 10 years ago now, where scientists were looking into the ability to essentially edit your genes, right? So if you want to have someone be a certain height, they can edit a gene that makes that baby, for example, a certain height. Maybe if you want them to have a certain level of intelligence, for example, certain things that you can, like, things that give us our attributes are basically our genes, right? And so scientists have been looking into like basically editing these genes so that you can control like the applications behind it. Like what they're looking into is like being able to edit out like certain diseases and sicknesses, for example. But this obviously has so many more other applications, right? Like IQ, height, or like aesthetic things as well. So a lot of a lot of people are thinking that this is going to be a big industry in the next couple of decades, which brings up another interesting point, because like now is like, okay, well, disease, okay, that's great, but how about for all these other things that like IQ, for example, that only people that have a certain amount of resources or like money basically can afford these types of treatment. So this is where it becomes a little bit hairy, right? From like an ethical standpoint. So recently, this just came out that I think it's called Casgevy. It's a treatment. It's a gene edited treatment that is designed to treat two blood disorders, which are, and then one of them is sickle cell, for example. So there's millions of people that suffer from sickle cell, but again, this is just what's coming out in the public. I don't know if you heard about that that Chinese scientist that apparently claims to have created these gene edited twins, where I think he was trying to edit out memory loss or some shit like that, like the chances for Alzheimer's or whatever. I forget exactly what he was trying to gene edit it, but then it turns out that he gave these twins like way more IQ than a regular person. Right. So I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that like us as humans, like that seems like it could lead to a very dystopian like path, right?
It could. It would also lead to a very positive future too, I would think.
I think so too, for sure. From treating disease and sickness and whatnot.
Yeah, like it all boils down to like who has control over these things,
technology.
Right? Who has control over these things and what their incentives are, what their what their moves are, and and how they kind of navigate throughout, because it's always like when it comes to businesses like this, like there's the aspect of contributing to society, but then there's also the aspect of like staying alive as a company and livelihood and money, right? That's just fundamentally
an incentive.
It's the best incentive, and money is the best incentivizer for all that stuff, right? Because would you think that the quality of like that gene editing and all of that technology would be as good as it is and be as successful as it is in another system where money isn't the incentivizer and maybe just like a social,
like making it like a utility, basically?
Yeah, I don't think so. Or at least it would probably still exist, but it would be like, maybe 25% of what it is today.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I think, like, call me a pessimist, but I think even if there's the majority of people that are using it for good, for like, diseases and whatnot, I think there's always going to be malevolent actors that will use it for something like really, mischievous and probably like ethically is not going to be good for society, right? Like, do you trust like you could argue that, okay, it's been how many years since there's been like a nuclear war? Like, obviously that, if there were malevolent factors all the time, that there would be, I guess, more risk of people get like, us going to nuclear war or whatever. And thankfully there hasn't. Well, I mean, recently there's been more talk of that. But what I'm getting at is that, like, for gene editing, man, I think that just sends, if it's anything more than just diseases, that just sends it into such a weird path.
Right.
We should almost not be messing. That's almost like you always hear that saying, like, don't play God. That's almost playing God at that point, no?
It is. 100% it is. Yeah, you're messing with nature. You're messing with just the natural rule of things.
And we don't even need to come up with a conclusion that, like, this is just us reacting to like upcoming like technology that's coming out, right? Like,
because it's going to get better. It's naturally going to get better because that's just the way humans are, man. They're when they're set on a goal and they're fixated on solving a problem, they're going to fucking solve that problem. And so you ask me like what my thoughts are on that. I think that is just inherently, and we talked about this numerous times, but that's just inherently what humans are about. And
they're just gonna be naturally curious. They can't help themselves.
We just can't.
And I don't think so. Yeah,
we
for
can't
sure.
Help and I was as natural it is to humans, is also the other side, the side that you're talking about. That's also as natural to us as well as a species. Like, they're being malevolent actors and they're being like incentives.
It's a reality you gotta face. Yeah. I think it's a lot. I was thinking about it, I'm like, you almost gotta treat it like the way that AI should be treated, where it's just like, okay, well, at least what I think I agree with what Elon's saying is like, if we can't necessarily control it, like as far as who's gonna be using it, like we have to get very good at it as far as like being the good guys. So that if we have to use AI ourselves to our advantage as well, right? To combat AI. Because the only way that us as a species is going to beat like an AI in the future, for example, is if we integrate with AI ourselves. And I think that's what he's essentially proposing by going and putting a bunch of money into Neuralink, right? Because that's what would be, I think anyway, if you look at a long enough time path, that's what eventually, like, yes, Neuralink right now is the applications for it is to give, people that are paraplegics, for example, like, use of their limbs or whatever back, right? But eventually, like I said, like, there could be a time where you could essentially download that information of whatever, be a skill or just information in general, and then have that integrate. Now, is that so far a leap to then go with AI and then have that also integrate with you as well?
No, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think so. It is, and the crazy part about it is not so science fictiony, right? So I think you could kind of use the same thing for gene editing, where it's just like, I think you have to accept. You just have to accept that there might be malevolent actors, and make sure that as much of it is above board as possible, so that people are at least aware of what's going on and nothing's happening too much behind closed doors. And then getting really, really good at it and making sure that there's standards and whatnot in place. Like, you're gonna have to go through that whole rigmarole because, bro, like, that could get messy. Like, some just offshoot lab that starts creating and like cloning and like, like doing a whole bunch of gene editing or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is what's out there. Like, obviously we're clunking through this conversation right now because we don't know too much about it, but this is literally what's out there in the world right now.
No, that's true.
It's wild. It's literally, this is straight from a science fiction movie. You know what I mean?
Because you would have to think that for us to even consider a future like that, like a very pessimistic kind of future when it comes to this gene editing, we're talking like years down the line where it gets to the point, it's at a point where someone can just like do, like, they can just have a RV outside, and it's kind of like, Breaking Bad, where they're doing all this stuff. Like, it's got to reach that point, man, and we're still so far from that. Like, I'm pretty sure to get involved in this space, you need like a super giant lab, like very expensive equipment, and only like specialized facilities. Maybe there's only like 3 of them around the world that partake in this kind of science. And so for there to be like malevolent actors, I think that's a problem that might come way down the line when we're in this futuristic dystopia where they can, again, like, be in the back of their backyard in their RV cooking shit up, cooking some gene editing bullshit.
I think that definitely increases the chances of those for sure once it gets to that RV.
Once it gets
level.
to that point,
but I think at this point it's going to be state funded.
Right. So if it's
so now it's like, which countries which countries has the means to do it, and then once you establish which countries has the means to do it, which countries are most likely to be looking into that tech in the first place, and then once you have that short list, okay, which of these has the most potential to be a malevolent actor? I think that's how you would break it down for like current times, right? But anyway, so yeah, like that, I found that's a headline that I saw. Obviously, it's pretty evident that we don't know too much about that subject, but I think it's a fascinating subject. Just the concept of gene editing, the concept of like something like a Neuralink, because these things, like right now, we're you could argue that we're a bit of an android already as it is, especially with the way that we interact with our phones, for example, right? But now, can you imagine, like, the next step from that would be something like a Neuralink, and then so that would be from a tech standpoint. From a biology standpoint, the next upgrade from that would be gene editing, obviously. So, bro, like, there could be a time, like, I'm just obviously just shooting it out there, but there could be a time where you only have a certain amount of people. I find it likely that with these types of technologies, there's only going to be a certain type of people that are going to be able to afford these types of treatments. Now, like, let's say however many generations is going to take, there could be a time where literally there's going to be a fork in our species. And I don't think that this is talked about enough, but you could have literally one, like, class of humans that are not really humans anymore, that are gene edited to have the craziest attributes, that have the craziest access to tech in terms of like Neuralink and whatnot, and then those that can't afford it, that are literally just like your OG humans, that are not, that like the best that they have is a cell phone, right? So I think that's maybe it takes 100 years, maybe it takes 200 years, but I think that's the natural direction that this is where it's going to head with this technology. Not unless you make it a utility where everybody has access to all of that. Which, do you find that likely? Like you said, incentive. Would companies that are looking into this right now be incentivized to make it a utility? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think you're seeing that, like, I think that's just natural, right?
You're seeing that now.
The humans of the future are going to be better athletes, just naturally, right? Because, humans, and with the way, not just technology, but advances in healthcare, advances in just standard of living in certain places like North America, over time, like, I don't necessarily look at it as a fork, but there's just, like, people are getting faster, stronger, better at things like sports. People are getting smarter, right?
I mean, I think this is already.
It's already happening.
It's
naturally.
happening now,
and
naturally.
It's happening naturally. And I think the technology side of it is also, you could also coin it off as a natural thing too, because that's just naturally humans curious about
100%
the boundaries, right? So
yeah.
that fork, the humans of 100 years from now are just going to be, like, across the board better than humans now. Like, they're just going to be more efficient. They're going to have.
I don't think naturally. I think that.
If you look at technology as like a natural thing, which I think it.
So minus the technology for a moment. If without technology right now, if we humans were to keep living like this, our evolution is so slow that humans right now wouldn't really look that much different from humans 200, 300 years from now. If you were just to go fully natural, right? Yeah. So minus the technology for a moment. I think at this point, especially with our natural, like with the medications that we have and whatnot, we've pretty much reached, I would think, almost the limit of where we're at. How many times? Like, look at a fastball, for example. Do you think that we're going to be able to throw a ball any faster than we have right now, just from natural means? I don't think so. Right. Same thing with running a 100-meter sprint. Like, if that was the case, that using that kind of logic, that almost like every other Olympics, you would have world records broken in the 100-meter dash. But you don't. 100-meter dash is. I don't think that you would have humans go that much more faster with all the technology that we have now, with all the medications, minus any kind of enhancements from a gene editing standpoint, and minus any enhancements from like a tech like the Neuralink standpoint, for example. Yeah. So this is why I'm saying that, like, yes, you're right. Maybe there's going to be like incremental gains if you just went from a natural standpoint today versus a natural standpoint of like 120, 200 years from now. But I think obviously, like, if you fold in gene editing and like the Neuralink, for example, that you are going to naturally have that fork. So I just don't see that it wouldn't happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how it's implemented.
Exactly.
Only
is it a utility or is it
that would only be
capitalism?
Yeah.
So interesting topic though. Like it's something that obviously is on the horizon. Like a lot of really cool technology. It's pretty much here, right? It's not quite there from a consumer standpoint, but at any rate, so what other? There's a bunch of other things that happened this past week. Did you happen to see the roast of Tom Brady?
No, did not.
No, not at all. Huh? So some key highlights. So Netflix really went out of their way. Well, not necessarily went out of their way.
This? Is Tom Brady's like bored?
I don't know. I probably. I
thought I was looking at the Met Gala when I was looking at some of those highlights. And I saw Tom Brady up there. It's like Tom Brady. Did he act in something this year?
No. So roast used to be a lot more popular, but I think because of just
they pull out the fucking red carpet for that shit.
Let's see. Why am I not seeing? I need to go down. Fuck me, man. No, part fight draft. Okay, here we go. Okay, so Tom Brady roast. Netflix did a live event, and this is actually interesting because they did a live event for Cat Williams the previous Sunday. I think it's really cool that Netflix is doing like these live events. Kind of has that same TV feel, TV vibe where everybody's tuning in at the same time. It's pretty cool. But so obviously a roast is where you have whoever's getting roasted, and then usually you're going to have like entertainers, comedians or whatever go up and then roast that person that's getting roasted, in this case Tom Brady, and roast each other too. right? So some of my like I watched it and I thought it was fucking cool because it really, and we'll get to this at the end, but I think the pendulum has swung back the other way. And we'll talk about that. So some of my favorite moments that happened is, I don't know if you know who Jeff Ross is. Mm-mm. So Jeff Ross is a comedian that is really like roasts are his thing. So he was the first roaster. So Kevin Hart's the one that hosted it. Then Jeff Ross came up, and Jeff Ross made a joke about Robert Kraft, who's the owner of the Patriots, and like a massage thing. And apparently everyone was told like that was off limits, right? And so he made the joke, and then Tom Brady gets up from his seat and was just like, nah, like, don't say that shit again. So he basically was just like, we could go home right now. Like, don't say that shit again. Even after all that stuff happened between him and like the Patriots organization, obviously him leaving and whatnot. I think that's an old school type of loyalty, man. I think that was super dope to see, whichever way that you feel about Rob Kraft. Shit. Allegedly having done that.
That's the GOAT, man.
Yeah, but so I thought that was a pretty cool detail. And then Nikki Glaser, I don't know if you know who Nikki Glaser was.
Yeah, she's the comedian, right?
She's a comedian. She did pretty well. I think in general comedians killed it. Like Tony Hinchcliffe killed that shit. Did you see any clips of Tony? I think
I saw one where he went to town.
Yeah. No, he killed it. He did it really well. The players actually did really well. Ron Burgundy made a surprise appearance.
Ooh, Burgundy. Do I know that guy? Ron
Brother, Burgundy. Anchorman.
Oh, Will Ferrell.
Yeah, Will Ferrell, bro.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that sounded familiar.
Bill Belichick's, he actually went up. No one, for the first little bit, nobody was sure whether or not he would he was there.
Yeah.
But he made a surprise appearance, and he actually like he's pretty good. He's a pretty good comedian. He has good timing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all clean.
He's got that like serious face, and you know he looks like a guy that can crack a joke here and there. You know.
Yeah. No, he was sick. Yeah, so the comedians held it down. UFC was in the house. Bro, Gronk was getting it from everybody. Gronk was just it's too easy, bro. It was a layup. But he also kind of proved why. Because he went up, he took and then at the end of his set, he took a shot, so he poured a shot for himself, Tom, and Bill, right? And they all took a shot. And then after he takes a shot, he spikes it. And then apparently, this was not planned or anything, because you can see everybody like, oh, what the fuck? And then apparently he hit some lady in the fucking crowd, bro.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because of shot glass, right? He has a pretty thick glass, usually, those shot glasses, right?
Yeah.
So apparently, like, murked some lady in the fucking face in the front row. Yeah.
Who was it? Just a random?
I don't know. I have no idea, but everybody was just like, whoa.
Makes it too, yeah. It's just easy pickings for
so, yeah. No, I thought it was pretty cool. I think, there was a lot of gay and retard like being flown around, or not necessarily gay and retard, actually. Maybe I'm just pulling that out of my ass. But what I'm getting at is that like when Dana White went up, he held it down, bro. He was just like, what did he say again? He just like, oh, I flew all the way out here for I only have 60 seconds or whatever. Guys, Netflix, my name's Dana. Is that not transphobic enough for you guys?
Oh yeah,
like that. Yeah. So I think the pendulum, and there were some other jokes that were probably, if you were to go back a couple of years, would light the tabloids on fire and get them canceled. You know what I mean?
Love that.
But I don't know. What do you feel that at all, as far as like people being less sensitive to that kind of stuff? Because from my friends that are like teachers in high school, apparently it's kind of swung back. There's a lot of gay and retard and whatnot being thrown around. And that whole transphobe thing. Sorry, but just to finish that point, apparently like now it's just like that whole gender identity thing is like out the window. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's out the window. It might be on its way.
Not necessarily out the window, but I mean, like, people
it's on its
way. People are more open. Apparently, like the younger generation are more openly about like, nah, stop this.
Yeah, because I mean, people are just it's easy to look through all that bullshit. It's just virtue signaling. People are tired of it. I'm tired of it.
You know, the crazy part about it is, I'm sure that there are people that are actually really dealing with gender like dysphoria. I think 100% that most likely happens. But I bet you, like, I feel a lot. The feeling that I get is a lot of them that claim that they are. I think a lot of them are just attention seeking and narcissists, and probably have some like a more of a mental disorder more than anything.
100%.
That's my feeling on it, for better or worse.
I think so too. I think the ones that are the most loud, kind of yelling from the top of the cliffs, are the ones that probably aren't going through the worst of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that, you have people that are like gay, that are like, we don't claim these guys that are just being.
Oh yeah, the conservative gays, for example. Yeah.
I think it was kind of the writing was on the wall when it came to that a little bit. Like everyone was kind of sick of that back. Remember like 2017, from 2017 to even 2019. Like 2019 was when it was really picking up, but I think it started like around like 2015s to the 2017. That was when like it was bubbling. If you want to go back that far. And then 2019 to now, or like 2019 to 2022, especially when everyone was inside COVID, that was when all that bullshit was like hitting Twitter. It was hitting social media.
People were at home.
Yeah. Twiddling their thumbs. And so that's when the virtue signaling and just the yelling from whichever rooftop you were yelling from was at its all-time high. And I think you got guys today, like I could think of the guys like Andrew Tate, even Rogan to an extent, guys that are talking about just the hard truths, right? Like all facts, no feelings, like fuck your feelings type of guys, right? So Rogan, Tate,
they got flamed.
Well, they got flamed initially,
but they also,
but I think the younger generation are looking at those people and are like, yeah, these guys are talking about shit that I can get behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like all that other shit from the past decade, again, going all the way back to 2015 and shit, it's kind of getting annoying. It's kind of getting, I think it was a fad. I think it was a trend that's dying. It's on its way out. And I think we're going to go back to what it was. Like
it's kind of normalizing now.
Yeah, it's normalizing now.
Some people are saying that it's almost like overcorrected all the way to the other side now, that people are like really throwing out a lot
people
more.
Are sick of it.
Yeah,
people
exactly.
Are sick of it, man. Especially when you talk about Netflix too, because Netflix had a history of I think they had a phase where they only put up comedy that was like PG or not. What was the term for that kind of comedy that didn't talk about
clean?
Just clean comedy.
Yeah.
No one fucks with clean comedy.
Yeah. No, I gotta give it up to Netflix, because they're the ones that really stood by guys like Dave Chappelle, for example.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think I think it's something that is a interesting fad that happened for sure. So we'll see whether or not it swings back extremely the other way. But it's like
5-6 years of this bullshit is a long ass time.
Yeah.
People are gonna get tired of it, and it's cycles at the end of the day, right? I think a big reason why it even became a thing in the first place was because we were at a point where no one was talking about it. It wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
And then some people come out and say, this is happening to me, like this. Oh, you didn't hear about my dysphoria, or you don't know about the LGBTQ whatever.
Well,
and then now it's at a point where it's been talked about. It's been pretty much highlighted, and it's been front row and center for the past 5-6 years. And now people are like, well, this thing that happened before, this culture that was in like before in the early 2000s, even the early 2010s, we want to go back to that, because this is kind of like how fashion like recycles, and there's a whole cyclical thing to it, right?
How much of it do you think did it originate from being a psyop?
What's the psyop?
So it's a psychological operation where you're basically trying to influence a population or a demographic for certain things. So you could even argue that propaganda does this. So there's this popular clip of this Russian psychologist. I forget the name now, but he was talking about how if you want to infiltrate the minds of people to have them think a certain way, it's not going to be overnight. It's going to be through like over a set period of time. And I think if you look at like, let's say the West's natural enemies, like the Russians and China, for example, they can't necessarily they can't necessarily directly confront US on a military front, because if you look at the militaries of all those top 5 militaries, for example, like US is bigger in terms of the Navy, their actual army and whatnot, bigger than the next 2 or 3 militaries combined. So let's just say, hypothetically, if I wanted to influence my enemy's population and I can't directly confront them, I'm going to use other means such as a psyop to have their population kind of weaken from the inside. So there's this whole conspiracy, that the West's enemies are using psyops to influence the population to fight against each other, and this is just one of those things. This is one of those results. I think maybe not 100% of it, but I think a good fair share of it. Because think about how many Russian sponsored social media farms there are, where they're basically out there putting out fake posts, getting people to fight against each other. It turns out one of the biggest Christian Facebook groups, for example, was just a Russian it was set up by Russians, basically, right? I don't know. I don't think it's that far out of the realm of reality.
I think you'd be naive to think that there
wasn't. I think you'd be naive if there wasn't any of that, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look at TikTok. TikTok's banned in China. I didn't know that.
TikTok's not banned in China.
Or no, it's I think, sorry, no, not.
No, the algorithm, the algorithm is different in TikTok in China versus how the algorithm is in the West.
Online games is actually banned for kids in China. I recently learned
there's an age restriction, right?
There's something like age restriction. There's a time restriction too. They can only play an hour every weekend.
Dude, there was a problem in South Korea and China you had people dying at these internet cafes because they were gaming too long. Have you seen this?
Yeah, of course.
It's fucking wild, bro.
That's
what came into mind when you were saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think you'd be naive to think that there isn't some kind of, again, we're going back to this whole malevolent party and different incentives kind of topic. So you'd be naive to think that there aren't some bad players that are trying to, target us from, whether it be our phones or it be at our universities. There's of course some influence there. Again, putting our tinfoil caps on. I truly do think that you'd be naive to think that there isn't anything that's like that. But in other news, talking about tech. Fads and tech, another story that came out this week was the continuing fall off of our boys in Microsoft Xbox.
What's happening? I have no idea what the heck's happening. So you break it down for me.
So there's been just as of late, the past couple of weeks, some really bad decisions in general being made in the gaming industry. Yeah. There was this game called Escape from Tarkov that management of that team basically decided to kill their very popular game by making a terrible decision to make it basically pay to win. So we don't need to go into details on that, but they just made a really bad managerial decision.
Went for the money instead of
they went for the money. Yeah, exactly. And another thing, more on the data protection side and data tracking, was the mishap that Sony made for their really popular game 2 called Helldivers 2. I don't know if you've heard of that game, but it's a really popular game right now, and they basically made it so that you're forced to make a Sony account to log into that game, which was a change that they said that they were going to make. It never really made it to live when the game got released this year, but it was implemented for a few days. But it got
flamed online.
Yeah, flamed.
Why is that such an issue? Just because people didn't want to
Sony doesn't really. Yeah, Sony doesn't really have the best reputation for data, for handling data,
right?
So people were just really turned off by the idea of having to go through them to play the game that they like, and it's a really good game. It's definitely a top contender for a game of the year. But the bigger story here is Xbox, our boy Xbox, chiming in as well with the decision to. We all know that, well, maybe not everyone knows this, but layoffs in the tech space are continuing. It's just, every single week we're hearing about it in the news. Xbox is not immune to that at all, which is a subset of Microsoft. Xbox has been laying off their gaming studios basically this year. And the funny stat about that is that Xbox, and we're talking about the people that made Halo. They made titles like Assassin's Creed. They made titles.
Are you talking about Bungie or are you talking about Xbox? Xbox, like.
Well, we're talking about Microsoft. So Halo and everyone that's coming under the Microsoft brand of video games. So we're talking about Xbox.
Yeah, but I thought studios can either choose Xbox
so studios,
or PS4.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some studios that are directly associated with either Xbox or
kind of like
Sony.
a crown corp of Xbox.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you can kind of think of them.
Okay.
So our boys Xbox have basically closed more studios this year than they have made original titles. So it's not looking good at for our boys in Xbox.
Is that just from sales or is it just like quality of like? I feel like there's no shortage of people gaming, but it's just they're not gaming on consoles anymore.
There's that, but there's also the factor of it's really hard to make a fucking game.
Yeah, it's wild.
And you add to the fact that you have these studios that are part of these bigger corporations that are all about earnings. They're all about how much profitability are you making.
Yeah.
Or, like that's why indie games are thriving right now, is because these AAA game studios just can't make good games.
They're just cruise ships, and it's hard to turn the cruise ship compared to like a skiff, which is like those independent. Makes absolute sense. You could say the same thing about software giants in general, man.
Right.
Basically, that's what these gaming companies essentially are. They're software companies.
They are
essentially software companies.
They're all about the margins, man. They're all about the financials. They want to see their across the board. Especially nowadays where the layoffs are happening left, right, and center.
Yeah.
If you're not profitable and you're not adding to the bottom line, then you're unfortunately just.
So where do you think this is headed now? Like, I don't think that gaming ever goes away. I think, just the popularity of PS4 alone. I feel like there's more people playing PS4 than Xbox, right? Does this mean that would there ever be a world that? Well, I guess there's definitely a chance, but does this mean that Microsoft's really on the way down? That there's a chance that Xbox just goes completely away? Is it at that point?
I think that's a very possible scenario. 100%.
Right.
You can't say that Xbox is going to last forever, right? And we've had this matchup pretty much been in our lives for most of our lives. This Xbox versus PlayStation matchup. PlayStation's, from what I'm hearing, is
the
okay.
Same thing. They're okay.
They're putting out releases and stuff like that. But I think now we're in May, and they still haven't released a single title. Remember back in 360 days where
it
was
every week,
left, right, center, every week.
Yeah.
Halo, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed. Did you know Halo? So taking these 5 games, I have this picture in front of me. These 5 games from the 360 era. Try and guess how long in total the time was from the first release to the 5th game that I'm about to name. Okay, we got some bangers here. Halo 3, Half-Life, Call of Duty 4. Assassin's Creed, and Mass Effect. How long do you think it took within that same year did it take for them to release those games?
Oh, probably I want to say like 2-3 years.
Bro, it took them just under 2 months.
For all those titles?
For all those titles.
Damn.
That was Xbox in its heyday.
Yeah.
So we really went through like probably arguably the most the best time to be a gamer. Because you had titles like this that really pushed the edge, really pushed the bar, come out in the sequence that it did, bro. 2 months for those titles?
I don't know if you have the data in front of you, but I'd be willing to bet that you just like a lot of those people that were on Xbox, like PC gaming has become so much more accessible to the general public that I bet you there's some losses even from PS of people going onto to PC just because, especially now because of streaming and whatnot. Like you just have so many more people that are just like online gaming on the PC versus like Xbox or PS. I feel like in my I don't know if this is a generational thing, but a lot of my friends that still game and whatnot, a lot of them will play like that Elder Scrolls, like that
old games,
like those older games, but that are like what are those game types called?
MMOs?
Yeah, exactly. That's what that game type is, right?
RPG, basically.
RPG, that's what it is. Yeah. RPG, or they'll play like sport games like NBA 2K or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's probably, I bet you that's probably where a lot of that is coming from.
Yeah.
And because like console, like running, why do you think there's so few of them, man? Running a console company is fucking hard.
Dude, running a gaming company is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Especially a gaming company that's under the umbrella of like a Microsoft.
Yeah. Dude, have you ever seen Grandma's Boy?
No.
Dude,
What's that?
You got to watch that movie. Grandma's Boys. It's about these guys that work for a gaming company.
Yeah.
And it's a classic. I think you love this movie. I think it's great.
All right, I'll check it out. But
Grandma's Boy.
I just think that it's the bigger picture here at the end of the day. It's what we talked about, and a few other times in the pod. But it's just this corporate profits versus like the creativity and the actual quality of the thing that you're putting out.
Yeah.
And for Microsoft to make a bad decision like this, where a lot of people are giving them flack for this decision, because some of these studios that they let go were like Bethesda type studios, like Bethesda as in like Fallout. Have you seen the new show, by the way?
No.
Pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I heard.
But yeah, they're letting go quality employees, quality studios, because they're not making money, which is fair. It's fair in the world of capitalism.
Lack of economics, man.
Exactly. It's just the way the world fucking works, unfortunately. Yeah. But it's jarring to see that, because then you have on the other side, you really have this surgence of indie games, like indie studios, individual gaming studios that are
smaller teams, more teams, agile teams.
Exactly.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. So that's
don't have shareholders to answer to, so they have more creative freedom. They don't have to take so many notes on producer notes, for example.
Because you also got to think about who the fuck. I saw a little bit of the interview that that Xbox's president, who is this attractive whatever, like she's like this she's like this. I don't even know how you describe it.
She's hot.
Like
she's hot.
No, not even that. She's like the prototypical CEO looking, like straight arrow kind of
individual. Yeah.
Individual, right?
Yeah.
And like for someone to kind of lead Xbox, that you can tell she doesn't know what she's not one of us.
She's not
one of us. You know what I mean? She's not fucking one of us. You could just look at her and be like, the way she talks,
you think she got there from like nepotism?
Probably. I mean, I don't know anything about her. I don't know anything about her, but just looking at her and just like judging by the way she talks, the way she carries herself, the way she talks about the gaming industry, the way she talks about the people that the constituents.
She's a suit.
Exactly. She's a suit.
Dude, you're going to love Grandma's Boy. They go through all of it. Yeah. Literally what you're describing is Grandma's Boy, bro.
Yes, the plot? Yeah. Okay, we got to check that out.
Yeah.
But like, I thought that was an interesting thing that came out this week, because, we were previously 360 Xbox gang for life, but I don't know if you could say that anymore confidently. I think they're on their way out if things don't change, and a lot of things have to change.
I wonder if with the advent of all of these like AR type of like tech, right, that there could be a chance that companies like Apple or even Amazon is going to get into that space. Yeah. I think it's a natural fit for those two companies, especially because they have the tech, they have the resources to be able to go down that path. I think Apple's already going down that path, to be honest with you, especially with what they have with the Vision Pro.
Right.
Can you imagine gaming? Like I think even Facebook has, what is it? What are their goggles called? Meta
something Quest or whatever.
But actually, I think we should probably wrap this up. But last, did you have any other topics that you wanted to go over?
Well, there's some
what else
sports. We got some sports updates. Just looking at the NBA, man. The second round of the playoffs is popping right now. But it's fun. It's a fun time, man. It's a good time to be a NBA fan.
There's a lot of 1-1s, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Meaning like usually the home team will go like 2-0, I find, especially like in the first rounds. That's more common. But now you're seeing a lot of teams splitting those first two games, which is sick.
Yeah.
It's going to be competitive.
I mean, we saw the reigning champs lose 2 at home.
2 at home. Yeah, bro. And slap that ass.
Slap that ass.
I think that goes to show how much of a difference that like somebody like an Aaron Gordon really makes being on the floor for Jokic to play his game, man.
Not only that, but what rest can do.
Yeah.
Because Jamal Murray was also a big factor that he really fucking
he
after
dropped
that
the ball.
Yeah.
On that second game.
He got his system. But yeah, Aaron Gordon was the biggest adjustment too. Like the way they brought up the ball so that Jamal doesn't have to worry about that full court press as much was a good call. Man, these little micro adjustments that these teams make at this level, man.
This is where coaching, man. Playoffs is where coaching really shines, man, because there's so much more at stake, and like it's it's basically chess. You're playing chess against the other coach.
Yeah, and then we saw outside of the NBA. Well, actually, just really quick on the NBA too. The awards. Any surprises there for on your end that you saw? Like Wemby winning Rookie of the Year. I mean, I think the biggest controversial one is Jokic winning MVP. How do you feel about him winning his fourth?
I'm not mad at it.
I'm not mad at it either.
But I always thought, especially in the modern age, man, that the MVP is such a watered down
popularity vote.
It's a popularity vote now, man. It's because the crazy part about it, especially LeBron, for example, he'll put up the same numbers for MVP seasons and still not. And it's not because that current year you necessarily have someone that does better numbers wise. It's just optics more than anything. You know,
it's just like it's the optics of, like, for example, we can't let Jokic win the MVP last year because that will put him at 3 in a row and only 2 people all time.
Steve Nash got that, man. Steve Nash should have gone 3 in a row.
Right.
If you look at the numbers,
right.
But because people were just like, no, otherwise this is like saying he's like Larry Bird. He's no Larry Bird, man.
Exactly.
You guys are a bunch of haters, bro. That guy deserved that.
There is a lot of that
for sure. So that's why I don't really like. Obviously, generally speaking, whoever they do end up choosing MVP, it's not like, oh, like you don't really like contest it. You definitely can see it, but I definitely don't respect it as much. And maybe it's always been like this. I don't think it was, but
I think that also comes from the fact that it's so hard, man. Like the top other 2 that were considered in the vote were Luka, who put up a crazy season, and Shea, who also put up a disgusting season as well. So it's just like it could really be any
one of those guys. That's the thing. And
so,
now it's a question of like impact the player has on the team, and then like how far the team goes. Like I think there's a bunch of, but at the end of the day, it's still a popularity contest.
It is
because it's inherently running on votes, right?
It is right. In other sports news, I think the only other thing was the Inoue fight.
Bro, did you watch that?
I saw some clips. Yeah,
dude, man, he got clipped the first round with a left hook.
Yeah,
and that was a short left hook, which just stunned him. So I don't think it really hurt him. But after that, I think like Inoue ended up knocking Neary down in the second round too, and also with a left hook. And it's crazy because the way that he did the second in the second round when he got his first knockdown on Neary is he was going backwards and he basically did this short left hook. And when I was watching it, I'm like, bro, what the fuck did he hit him with? Because it was so fast. And then I saw a slow mo, and just the way that he throws that left hook, he doesn't like loop. There's no fat to it at all. It's just literally just from here, bop, just short. As he's going backwards, drops Neary, and then from there, I felt like the third round onwards, he really figured out the space. Like one thing about Inoue that I think he does so well is the way that he just like occupies and just is aware of the void. You know what I mean? Like just his distance management is so disgusting. Like obviously when he gets tied up or whatever, like that's where guys will try to put up against the ropes or whatever. So that's a lot of what the guy's game plans, not even just Neary, but a lot of his past opponents will try to do.
Yeah.
But man, like from the third round onwards, he was just whooping that ass, bro. And Neary's no slump, like he's no slouch at all, bro. Like he's nice. He's just it's just that, man. Inoue's too much power, too much skill, and I think he knocked him down again in the fifth round with a left hook. And there was one point in time at like. Usually boxers do not throw the same punch over and over and over and over again unless it's like a jab, right? But usually and when he does throw like 4 or 5 straights in a row, that's basically him saying like, yo, bro, I got you figured out. Like I'm just going to keep throwing this shot because I'm not missing. And he did that towards the end of the fifth. After he knocked him down, he kept throwing straight right, like literally 5, 6 in a row. And I was just like, bro, he hasn't figured out. And then next thing you know, next round, ended up knocking him down again. And this time, the guy didn't get back up. Yeah. And just like, so after getting knocked down in the first round, figuring him out in the next couple of rounds after that and just finishing him by the 6th round, bro, unbelievable. Like, it's reminiscent of Pacquiao, man. Like, whenever I watch him, it's just like, bro, this guy has the same kind of like effect from a power standpoint that he does to his opponents that Manny had, but he's so cerebral in the way that like somebody like a Lomachenko is.
Yeah.
So to me, it's almost like as if like he's a combination almost. His style is almost a combination. He's definitely not as wild as Manny, but he has that power.
Yeah,
and he has the technique of Loma, right? Like it's not the same footwork or whatever, but he's cerebral in that way where he downloads the information.
I think
figures out the timing and spacing and just fucks you up.
Well, I think more fitting would be like a Mayweather, because like Mayweather Manny.
Mayweather with power almost. Yeah, true.
Mayweather Manny combination is I think that fits the Inoue build to a T, because you have the Manny strength and you have the Manny aggressiveness and just that dog, right? He's got that fucking dog in him.
Yeah,
anyway,
he's got that dog.
He's a dark motherfucker.
Yeah, he's got some demons, bro.
And then add to that the sharpness and just to a T, like managing the, like you said, like that void, right? And just figuring out and dissecting his opponents. Like that's coming from Mayweather too. Like the sharpness of like his. Because like he's not telegraphing anything at all. Like
bro,
that short left hook,
that
bro.
short left is so nasty, man.
God damn, bro, it's a piston, bro. It's a piston.
So shout out the monster, man.
Shout out the
shout out the monster. That's his nickname.
What more of a fitting
monster
name is that? Yeah, like nickname. But
we should go over like some UFC nicknames. Actually, some of my favorite ones, maybe to finish. Actually, so I have a list, and you let me know what your favorite is from this list of nicknames. Yeah. And then we'll finish off like that. So I just picked from a list of like favorite nicknames over the years, and let's choose which one is your favorite.
Before we go into this, what do you think of the WNO event? Did you see any?
Oh, it's boring as hell, bro.
Nicky Ryan versus
JT Torres. Holy, bro, that was a fun
straight ankle lock. Was it a Z lock or just a straight ankle?
That was straight ankle. What's it called?
That's crazy to get JT.
But he had his legs tied. I don't remember exactly how he got it tied up, but he had it tied up good.
He had like inside Ashi kind of position, but the Marigali versus Rocha one, no, nothing surprising there. He was just kind of like the same thing.
He was talking shit during the press conference. Like what? I don't think Marigali realizes that Wagner was selling the fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Wagner was being a professional.
He was.
And then now apparently like Marigali's like after the fight is going to do like a comp where he's going to like do a highlight where he's talking shit, where it's like Wagner talking shit, and then he's going to take a snippet from the fight like to counter that. It's like, oh, you didn't say I had wrestling? I'm going to do a compilation showing you how I wrestled you. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Kind of corny, but it doesn't surprise me given that it kind of. Well,
I mean, he's at New Wave with Gordon, so
Gordon, we love you, man. Like you're one of my fucking jiu-jitsu heroes. But again, kind of corny sometimes, my dude.
Kind of corny, and it's just like, man, read the room.
Kind of cringe, bro.
He's doing this for the both of you. He's trying to sell the. Did you see how many people were in that stadium,
bro?
Barely anyone.
Crickets. But that's also not the athlete's fault.
It's not the athlete's fault.
Yeah,
they did a terrible job.
That's more of a flow grappling WNO issue.
They did a terrible job marketing that. But let's go over some of these names.
Yeah, so I have some of these here. Let's go down the list and let me know what your reaction is.
All right, let's do it.
Fedor, the Last Emperor Emelianenko.
Ooh.
It's a badass fucking nickname,
Star
bro.
Wars shit right there.
Shit.
Yeah.
Vanderlei, the Axe Murderer.
That one's a hood classic.
That is a fucking classic, bro. I remember like yo, they allow that on TV. That's kind of wild, bro.
Yeah.
It is pay-per-view actually. Now that I say that. I always like Ruthless Robbie Lawler.
Fitting.
Shout out Robbie, man.
Savage.
Pretty sure he's half Filipino or at least part Filipino.
Something like that.
Yoel, Soldier of God Romero.
Oh, man.
SOG. I always thought that was badass.
Yeah, because
that's pretty sick.
Got that military background.
Yeah, he's fucking,
like a fucking superhero.
I don't think he has a military background.
Something like that. He's got.
He was part of the state-funded Cuban wrestling program, brother.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And apparently, like some doctors analyzed like his injuries or whatever. There's like, yo, like this guy is not human. Like, what the fuck? So who knows what kind of Cuba?
He doesn't look like
because Cuba has some of the best like doctors in the world. Who knows what kind of gene editing they have access to, bro? Chael, the American Gangster, Sonnen.
Solid fitting.
I love that. I love Chael, man. Chael's an originator of like talking shit. He's one of the best. Chang Sun, Korean Zombie Jung. I don't even know this guy's real name, bro. That's how you know you have a good nickname.
Yeah.
When people just know you as your nickname. And here's another one, Jacare.
Jacare, yeah.
Jacare, I think it means alligator or gator or some shit like that. And a lot of people don't know that his real name is Ronaldo Souza, right? Mm-hmm. Crow Cop, another example. Everybody knows him as Crow Cop.
But
Nobody knows him as Mirko, bro.
Yeah, Mirko.
Mirko Crow Cop. I don't even know his last name.
I'm pretty sure it's Crow Cop.
His last name?
Yeah.
No. Crow Cop because he's like he's a cop. He's an anti-terrorist cop.
Croatian cop?
Yeah.
Oh, I swear it was. Yeah, there you go. That's talk about a really good nickname, right?
Oh yeah. Quentin Rampage Jackson. Enough said.
Enough said.
Said.
Iceman.
The Iceman, bro. Jeez, that slaps. I think that's more nostalgia more than anything because that's when really, I was into UFC before Chuck the Iceman Liddell, but that's when really UFC started popping off.
Yeah.
And everybody started getting into it.
The Iceman versus the Fire Shorts and Tito Ortiz, man. That's what.
Yeah, exactly. El Cucuy. Tony Ferguson's, that's
Fergie.
pretty badass. I like that.
This next one right here.
Game Bread.
Yeah.
Game Bread is sick.
True to his
Jorge
name.
Masvidal.
The street fight, the backyard street fights, man.
And honorable mention our boy George Rush St. Pierre.
Rush is dope.
Our fellow Quebecois. Oh, I guess not fellow.
Canadian.
Our fellow Canadian, our Quebecois, rounding out the list. I don't know. Which one do you like out of all these as your favorite one?
I mean, the Axe Murderer's up there.
That's the one that stands out to me, man. I always The Last Emperor is badass too, though. That's pretty sick.
Game Bread. I like Game Bread. Game Bread's dope.
Yeah.
Those are sick, man. Yeah, that. I mean, we can call it there.
Let's call it.
Let's call it there. All right, guys. That's a wrap on episode 20. Thank you guys for listening.
Another
and
one.
tuning in. We will be back to you next week where we will be officially, according to these statistics, and who knows if these statistics are true, but let's just assume that they're true because it's just more fun that way. Fuck all of you pessimists. But if you tune into next week's episode, we will officially be the top 1% of podcasts.
Top 1%. I thought it was top 10.
Top 1.
Top 1, baby. Let's
fucking
get
go.
it. Yo,
Dap it up,
yo,
baby.
bro.
Hey. All right. Until then, hope you have a great week. Stay black. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.